Hey, this is Brian Hill here. I'm one of the frequent guests on the Masonic Light podcast, and I'd like to congratulate them on 2 years. Who would have thought they'd be around for 2 years?
This is the Masonic Light Podcast featuring Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris. A non-stuffy, somewhat humorous approach to understanding our craft. We guarantee you'll have a good time or your money back. This podcast is not endorsed or approved by the Grand Lodge or any jurisdiction. In fact, they'll probably hate it. And now, here's our host, Pete Ruggieri and Larry Maris.
So we're celebrating end of year 2.
Yeah, we are. As of Thursday last week. Officially.
So that's why we threw in the
throwback.
The throwback intro. And today's episode, because it was Larry's birthday this week, Larry
Happy
turned
birthday to Larry.
74. Larry brought a special gift for the group. What are we celebrating with tonight?
Well, Jack brought that.
That's Jack's birthday
Jack
present.
brought that for me.
Oh, you brought the licorice. So, Jason, what have you been up to the past couple weeks in Freemasonry?
Oh, I didn't know I was going to go first. Man, what have I done? Scottish Rite reunion. I don't know if we talked about that in the last show, but we had the Lancaster Valley Lodge Perfection Scottish Rite reunion, which actually was really good. A lot of good feedback. I think that's about it. I'll probably interrupt somebody in a minute, but come back to me.
Jack?
I had a really cool Masonic experience when I was in Italy. Couple weeks before I left, we recorded an episode here, and I mentioned that I was going to Italy, and it'd be cool to get into a lodge over there. But I really hadn't made any plans. I hadn't contacted anybody, so it probably wasn't going to happen. So someone, Nick Lane, Worshipful Master of Castle Island Virtual Lodge in Manitoba, Canada, sent an email message to Jason, who sent a message to me that said that Nick was going to get in touch with somebody in Italy who was going to get in touch with me about going to see a lodge in Italy. So I get a message from this fellow from Italy who said, it would be lovely to, show you around and show you our lodge, and that'd be great. And I said, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, that's okay, because it won't happen while I'm in Italy. So that'll be all right. And he said, oh, my brother, it will happen. And it did. When we were in Florence, I got together with some guys from the Grand Orient of Italy and toured their Grand Lodge Hall in Florence, in Borgo Albizzi. And it was stunning. It was an old 15th century palace, and all of the art and architecture and stuff that was in the palace when it was a palace is still there. They've just sort of built lodge rooms around it. And there's like 45 lodges meet in this building. And it was absolutely breathtaking. It was awesome. And it speaks to what Jason is always talking about Lodge on Demand and the Internet of Things and all that, and what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago about where we are right where we're supposed to be right now. How awesome is it that I could just make a casual mention of that in a basement in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and a guy from Canada contacts a guy from Italy, and a week later I'm standing in a lodge room in Florence. It absolutely speaks to what this fraternity is supposed to be all about. It was awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And the technology of today, while I was saying probably on our last show how technology is in some ways killing our craft, in other ways it's reinventing it.
No, absolutely it is. And I like we said a couple of weeks ago, we're on the cusp of whatever's coming next. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with how we communicate, just as it did, when the printing press came around.
I think it's killing for the craft. It's killing portions and other, like what's happening to Jack would have never happened 20 years ago.
Right.
You would have had to know a guy who knew a guy. It was a lot more complicated.
Well, 20 years ago I tried. Well, not 20 years ago because I haven't been a Mason for 20 years, but I actually sent an email message to the Grand Secretary in Italy when I was in a previous employment that I was going over, and I'd like to try to find a lodge to go to over there. I never got a response. So, but that was back then, and today it's just instantaneous. It almost happens without even trying hard, and that was very cool. I had a great experience. What was really interesting though is I was standing right in front of the building, and there was no sign anywhere. There was nothing to indicate that this was a lodge hall. I even went to a little art shop across the street from the address that I had, and I said, "Loggia Masonica Dove, what?" And he said, "Oh, they moved. They moved 2 years ago. They moved." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess the guy I'm supposed to meet didn't know that." So about 15 minutes later, he and I connect on the phone, and he's like, "No, it's right there. Just come walk back up the alley, and we'll be there." And he was right there, but the guy in the art shop across the street either didn't know they were there or didn't want me to find them. I'm not going to speculate, but he lives right across. He works right across the street from the place, and either didn't know it was there or didn't want anybody to, find it. So it's very cool.
Now,
Good
pardon
experience.
my recognition ignorance. Is that a Grand Lodge that we recognize?
I really, really, really tried to find out what would be a Grand Lodge that I could attend, and it is very difficult to find it on our Grand Lodge website. So if anyone,
No, it's in the Tyler's book, allegedly.
yeah, well, I wasn't at the lodge where the yellow book is. I was on an airplane going to Italy.
But the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania does have a resource page. It should have.
Yeah, you'd think you could find it, wouldn't you? But
I know a guy.
it shouldn't take a guy.
Well, I know a guy that sometimes on this show.
There should
that,
be a button that says recognitions, and it should say all of those things. But I couldn't find it. So if it was recognized, then I'm cool. If it wasn't recognized, then expel me and
But you didn't do anything.
refund my dues.
You did nothing tiled, so.
Right. We didn't attend a meeting. We just explored their
just
building.
visited their lodge, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it was very nice.
Jason hates when I crack open a beverage
A cola.
in front of the microphone. It's just a cola, and it's from the generic from the store.
So other Masonic news, we're just about to pull the trigger on a new AMD council. And I've got
is that public now?
pretty much all the paperwork is ready. I just have to run it by one person to look it over and make sure that I have all the T's dotted and the I's crossed and all that
Make sure
stuff.
you triple check, because apparently AMD said they didn't get our dues the past 3 years.
La 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 la
And then-
la
but they
la
did.
la. We didn't. We're not going there. No.
Okay.
Administrative snafu. But yeah, so that's exciting. We're going to have a little bit more of a educational / research / discussions kind of AMD council. That's really one of the cool things about AMD is that each council has the opportunity to define itself and what it wants to do and that kind of thing. So that'll be our thing.
Very cool. Larry, anything going on?
Not really. Yeah, I get tired of mentioning goose and gridiron breakfast. So really, that's there's been no petition investigative committees lately.
How many clicks did it take to get there?
Other than that, no, not really. There's a lot of stuff coming up, but not in the past.
My week last week was I kind of like hell week. It started 2 weekends ago with me at Grotto in
Delco?
in
At PGA.
Gettysburg. And then, one night we had practice for,
Is somebody getting murdered up there?
I don't know. We'll only take a quick break. I'm going to go settle the dogs
good
down.
idea.
The wife went shopping. So I texted her. I'm like, why are the dogs being crazy?
So there's raw meat upstairs?
and
Is that what
she
you're saying?
she replied back, I'm at the outlets. So I'll go throw the dogs a Kong full of peanut butter, and I'll be back.
This is Ken Hudson. I was on podcast 50, and I'm going to wish these guys a very, very, very happy anniversary, and hope they have 50,000 more series to do from this point. Again, congratulations. Best of luck to you.
Hey, we're back, and hopefully it's a little bit more quiet. I found out that the wife actually bugged out and went shopping.
Don't do that. Jeez.
Oh, see,
Damn it,
God damn it, Jack.
I thought they were outside.
No.
Somebody put the shock collar on Jack, please.
Don't I like it?
Hold on. Mute my microphone because I'm going to yell, Jason.
I don't know which one you are. Hang on. Okay, hang on. I'll just do them all.
All right, I yelled. I don't know if you got that or not.
Don't bark again, Jack, please.
Honest to goodness, I thought they were outside. That's funny.
Are we allowed to, I mean, maybe not the complete plans, but, are we allowed to talk about that we are potentially looking to make a permanent move to a new studio?
I guess we can mention it.
Well, finish what you did last week or last 2 weeks.
Oh, well, anyway, just Lodge of Perfection. The vows in the 9th degree with you. We did the prologue in Royal Court with Tall Cedars. I had counsel. I got installed as DIM, Deputy Illustrious Master. It's just a busy week. So that's.
I wanted to make a shout out to Larry Hudson and Greg Moore, both listeners of the show. Larry Hudson from Lamberton and Greg Moore from Riverside Lodge, 503 in Wrightsville. Mm-hmm. Some of our listeners may have seen it if they follow the First Masonic District. And I don't know if we shared it on a Facebook page, but they did a Bridging the Gap dinner, which was our district and then over the river. And if you're not from Pennsylvania, the Susquehanna separates Lancaster County from York County. And there's a little bit of a stigma, crossing the river. We don't tend to do that very often.
For our English UK listeners, that would be the War of the Roses,
right.
Lancaster and York, right? They're the red. We're the red.
We're the red
rose. They're the white rose cities. You get it.
But they did a joint dinner. That,
less death, though.
And Larry, I apologize. I know you listen to the show, but I was shocked, pleasantly shocked how successful it was, because there wasn't a ton of advertising for it, and it was just a ton of hustling in the lodges to sell tickets. And I'll tell you, I decided to go last minute because my plans for the day had changed, and they were able to sneak me in, and we were able to sit with the Gibbles and Ben Wachter, somebody who they both regularly attend Goose and Gridiron. And I'll tell you what, it was the best Masonic function I've been to so far this year. It was a great job. So
cool.
Kudos,
Good
guys.
for them. Well done, guys.
So,
studio.
yeah, so nice offer. There's some space in the basement of Ephrata Lodge, and Jack and some other guys from that lodge suggested that maybe we could go there as a studio. So we don't want to jinx it, but hopefully the vote will happen before this gets broadcast.
Yeah, the 8th.
Yeah. So we'll see if we're
the day after.
So we'll see if we'll get a new home, a permanent home.
Yes, with no man-eating animals or.
And you'll know whether we got approved or not because Jason will probably splice an ad into the podcast for a GoFundMe to help us raise some money for the for the studio.
I don't know if the timing will work out for this episode, but yeah, we'll have one.
Well, you'll release on Monday and our meeting's on Tuesday. So
there you go.
Yeah, release it really late on Monday so no one hears it.
That's usually the case lately.
Okay.
Alrighty then.
It should be great if it gets approved, and there's no reason to think it won't. We've talked to the trustees, we've talked to the sitting officers, but it is the members' building, right? It belongs to the members, and we have to get the approval of the members in order to carve off that space. But right now, it's sort of the back left corner of the lodge junk drawer room. It's just a big empty space, and there's enough room for it, and it should be a nice, comfortable studio. About like this space.
And it's a liquor store over our heads.
Yes. And a cigar store next door.
Yes, that works out.
For our regular listeners, so for the three of you,
as opposed to the irregular listeners.
Yes, you've probably heard about the remodeling, over the course of the last year happening at Jack's Lodge. in Ephrata, PA, and the remodeling is done. The room is beautiful, and the build out has left this utility room basically unused. So a little bit of storage, but hopefully it'll work out.
And our plan is to actually physically build walls, one with a window, so that people can view us as we're in recording. I mean, we're talking almost state-of-the-art studio.
Well, that's how studio works, Larry. That's
State-of-the-art
they have
1970 studio is what we're going to be working on.
Reel to reel.
Oh, okay. So our topic today really is just going to be, we've been around for 2 years. I can't believe it. I can't believe we've been here for 2 years.
I think we should talk about what the last 2 years has been like for our Masonic lives and personal lives, really.
And that's what I was talking about on break. One of our fans said, I hear on your show you guys talk a lot about Lancaster County. You talk a lot about Pennsylvania. I mean, that's where we're from. But, like, do people from out of the area care? So what are your thoughts on that, Jack?
Any good author, Larry, if you know any, would tell you that you should write about what you know.
Exactly.
Right? So this is what we know. We know where we live. We know our fraternity from our perspective. And we talk about it from our perspective. But we also understand that there's a larger audience that has different needs. Well, Jack Aquilina and Dave Illingsworth and Steve Austin and those guys in Australia, we're great friends with them. And we love to talk with them about their fraternity and how their Blue Lounge is growing and spreading around the world. And so, yes, we talk about this, but this is part of something bigger. And if you'd like to talk about your world on our podcast, we dare you. Call in and let us know that you're there, and we'll bring you on as a guest, and you can tell us about your jurisdiction and how completely goofed up it is, and why Pennsylvania is better than yours, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I think what makes it interesting too, from maybe our perspective and maybe from listeners' perspective, is we do a lot of things differently in our Blue Lodges and our fraternity than they do in any other state or probably any other country in the world. We're different because we're
but what's in common is all the
correct
the negative stuff. Of
no.
Well, no, but of like having problems with membership and having,
But that's the window dressing, really. That's not the stuff that makes Freemasonry. The stuff that makes Freemasonry is Nick calling me and saying, "Hey, I've got this guy in Italy that can hook you up."
Right.
That's Freemasonry, right? How many votes it took to make that happen doesn't matter at all. That's the stuff that we have to let go off our backs, work within the system.
I don't want to blow this out of proportion, but yesterday for my birthday, I got well wishes from people all over the world. I mean, I was absolutely shocked. People I don't even know, but I know who listen to the podcast, and that was amazing. And that's the kind of thing that I think we're about.
Did you hear from that hook in Uppsala, Sweden?
Oh my gosh!
No. And I want her address because I want to visit. And before we close for the night, we definitely want to give credit to Uppsala because they're a really great listening market.
They are. They're huge.
It's our biggest. We're really big in Uppsala.
Uppsala.
Anyway,
and that's the Swedish word for somebody who
was a Civil War general, actually.
Crochets.
Yes,
with their hooks.
Correct. It makes rugs.
My gosh, I think that if you look at a show like The Car Guys, you didn't have to be into cars to appreciate that show. And
I do think our banter comes through and people enjoy just listening to us because they act like they're on the dirty sofa with Larry. And
when people ask me what our podcast is about, beyond just Freemasonry, I'll say that we're the locker room of Freemasonry. And I said that to the illustrious Matthew DePay, and he really thought that we should lean on that tagline. He really liked it.
Well, I think one of the guys from the round table, Facebook with these posts from the past come up. And I think one of the guys said 2 years ago that we were the Milwaukee's best of Masonic podcasts. And I'm okay with that.
Hey, it works on a pinch.
Big mouth.
But that show, there's a TV show, The League, right? And The League is about guys that play fantasy football. And I think it's hilarious. Because they're good friends that are constantly busting each other's chops, and you don't have to understand a lick of football to appreciate that show.
it's also Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yes.
So, and that show's funny not because it's in Philadelphia, because only people from Philadelphia watch it. It's funny because it's funny. Because
But you get four
humanity,
dysfunctional
right?
people in a basement with alcohol. It's going to be fun.
Well, it's going to be funny. Absolutely.
There is no alcohol.
There is no alcohol in it.
We are not regulated by the Federal Communications
Turn off the
Commission,
cameras.
incidentally, yet.
So Jason, do you have
Only iTunes.
do you have any fond memories of the past 2 years of the show?
Oh man, why do I have to go first every time? This
Because you're on my left.
Go to Jack first.
Jack,
Yeah, I
when
do.
when did you first
I think I came on around episode 8 or something like that.
when did you first hear about it?
Episode 8.
Okay.
Oh, didn't we invite you on the show?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
on as a guest.
Episode 8.
And we were talking about mentoring and all the stuff
Yeah,
I do at my lodge. And I came on and it was fun. It's kind of like Hambrick with the roundtable guys. You know, you just hang around long enough and eventually you're a part of it. And if you would ever change the intro to include me, then other people would know that I'm part of it. But that's all right. Not that I'm,
Well, the new
Whiny
intro,
or
we
anything.
got him
now.
in. He's in there.
Yeah,
I'm in
we
there
put
now.
the and Jack.
Yeah, okay.
It's a big shout out.
That's because we don't have $5 to have it redone.
The professor and Mary Ann got that too at the end. Yeah. But no, it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, and it's something I look forward to. We all talk about how stuffy Lodge can be sometimes, and it can. It's nice when Lodge is light, but this is casual. This is beyond that. This is a part of what I thought Freemasonry was going to be, where you could just get together with buddies and hang out and BS about stuff. And we just happen to have a lot of people listening to the conversation that we don't
We'd
know.
have anyways.
Yeah. So it's awesome. I love it.
Larry, do you have any?
Oh God,
Any
yeah,
memories?
probably, yeah.
So I know you're getting up there in age, so I just want to make sure.
Well, you're right. I think, and which is why we played the intro to the first show tonight. And I think when you and I talked, I think it was about the first 4 or 5 minutes, we discussed what we hoped the show would be and what it would turn out. And I think one of the things you asked me about what my expectations for the show was, and I said, I don't have any. Because we were in uncharted territory there.
We still
had
don't.
no idea. Yeah, we still don't know. But obviously, we don't know because it's been successful. And I think probably one of the best memories I had, we had Chris Rodkey on the Reverend Dr. Chris Rodkey. And I think that show was a defining moment in our history. And I remember after we went in and we did that show, Mason, who was our producer at the Lancaster Podcast Studios, said to us, "You guys, your numbers are unbelievable." And he was saying,
Had a
"You guys,
300% increase. He went from 10.
you have something going
30.
here that most podcasts don't have." And I think we realized that we were working with something, and we just progressively have continued to grow. And I think it is because of what Jack said. It's just 4 guys getting together who genuinely like each other, who can bust on each other.
That's debatable.
No, wait a minute. You told me you liked me today.
I do. I love you, Larry. I really do.
love you, man.
But I think with Freemasonry and English speaking Freemasons, they're all over the world, and we found like a little niche market that is craving any kind of discussion other than reading the minutes and paying the bills in their Blue Lodge. And I think we're giving that to some people. I think we also give a voice that every lodge has the same difficulties. Every lodge has the same good things that could happen. I think it's actually bringing us a little closer together as a worldwide audience.
Are you going to go? Or,
Yeah, go ahead. I'm done.
Or you're done? Was that your turn?
That was my turn.
Well, the original question, what are some of my highlights? I don't know if it's necessarily highlights. There was just a survey that the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania and Indiana, I think they went together, asking about, our Blue Lodge experiences and where we get our Masonic education from. And one of the actual multi-choice or check all that apply was podcasts and blogs. And, not that I think that Grand Lodges are, not that they don't know that these things exist, but, at such a large level at the top, that's such a big ship to turn, right? So I think for me, the biggest excitement is that, like Tabbert said on a previous show, that, Masonry is constantly changing, and Masonry today is different than Masonry 20 years ago. And I feel like, we talk about small groups, things like invitational only appended bodies are they're booming right now. And that might be part, in fact, because people know about them and they're trying to knock on the doors to get in. But those small group, that whole, think globally, act locally mantra, I think really rings true in Freemasonry at the moment. And I think that I don't want to use the word unsanctioned because that sounds dirty, but there are blogs and websites and books and all this material out there that is not attached to a Grand Lodge, that's not attached to a jurisdiction. And I feel like, we're on the forefront of that. Now, Masonic podcasts have been around for the last 10 years, thanks to Robert Johnson. But the reality is that you don't have to rely on your Blue Lodge or your Grand Lodge to get Masonic information. And I feel like when the change comes, because it is coming, I don't think that we have a membership problem. I think we have a membership problem when we're relying on them to pay for the buildings that we can't afford anymore. This is going to be a big deal. I feel like we're on the cusp of that change. And we get to meet some really cool people. I mean,
I feel like we've definitely met some cool people through this.
I would think that, when Robert Johnson started, 10 years ago, people probably thought he was crazy. Now that's just an assumption, but now there's like real legitimacy. And we've had some serious, heavy hitters on our show for just being around for 2 years and kind of being the goofballs of this whole thing. Alan, Callaway, Tabbert. I mean, Heather the other day happened to be in this area for work, and she blew off the rest of her conference to come hang out at the Scottish Rite building where I work, and took a tour, and we had fun. And that would have never happened if it wasn't for this. And
she wished me a happy birthday yesterday.
Yeah, and that has nothing to do with my Blue Lodge, other than I signed up for Blue Lodge and became a member.
She doesn't realize it made my day.
Oh, I'm sure it did, Larry. You're such a creep.
Larry, no creepiness. Jack?
Heather, we're really sorry.
So where are we going to go from here?
I think we're going to ride the wave as far as it goes. There's nothing, because there's, as you can tell from this episode, there's no real structure here. But because there's no structure, we can talk about whatever's important to us right now, and that's good too, right? It's important to have people on, the guests on, the Oscar Allens and the Mark Tabberts, and that's great. That is, and we'll continue to do
the Callaways and the Snyders
and the Heather Callaways and the Michelle Snyders and all that is really important, and we'll keep doing that. But it's also, I think, a hallmark of our show that we bring on Joe Blue Lodge, and just like Ken Hudson the other week. Ken is just a regular guy.
Yeah,
and he's a member of the lodge, and he's a good guy, and he's got a fantastic personal story, and he's got a wicked sense of humor, and he was just a terrific guest. And
like I said, like Ken's a relatively new Mason, so he doesn't have a big Masonic resume, but he has a life resume that is really cool to hear.
Yeah.
And I think this shout out to all of our 10 listeners. If you or a person that's got a really unique job, that's a brother or a cool little story to tell, doesn't even have to be about Freemasonry, but we would like them to be a Mason so they could, but that's it. We'd love to talk to them.
So maybe, going forward into this year, we can look at involving our listeners more in that respect, because we do ask you to drop us a line or shoot us a message on Facebook or whatever, but seriously, this is your show as much as it is ours, and give us an idea. Throw a line out.
It could be like Dear Abby. You could ask us some questions, and we'll pontificate.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll tell you everything you're doing wrong in your life.
Let's not do that.
Let's make bad choices.
We did get a couple responses from emails or something like that you posted from some listeners.
Sure, we did. Yeah. I've got a nice one that I'll read here in a second.
Well, should we go to break?
We'll take a break. We'll come back with a listener's email.
All right.
I am.
Dick Kenna, Lambert Lodge 476, wishing Masonic Light Podcast happy anniversary, second anniversary. Larry has both fingers out, thumb just went up, so I guess I'm okay.
Hey, we're back, and here's some listener mail. So here's one from Jake. Jake in Virginia. Hello, brothers. I just wanted to reach out to you and say thank you for all you do with the show. I will be raised next week and have been listening to your show since before my petition was signed. I attend college in Virginia, and that's where I'm being raised, but I'm from the Reading area, so you guys provide a little piece of home to my day. I'm almost through catching up on the previous episodes, and everyone has been a joy to listen to. Thank you for helping to guide me through my Blue Lodge degrees and all you do. And signed, Jake.
Things must be rough down in his jurisdiction if we're the ones doing the guiding.
Ooh, really? We're helping him?
Yeesh. Let's mail us some scrapple, though. We'll give him a real taste from home.
We'll send you some scrapple and maple donuts from York and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
Jack, what do you got?
I can't even read this. I have to have this vetted before I read it out loud.
Well, here's another one. Greetings, brother. Credit Suisse Bank is obstructing my funds. Granted by Knights Templar International Heritage Fund.
Oh, there it is. Nice.
Yeah, I just ignored that one because, yeah. So, Larry.
Yes.
We're the originals here.
We're the originals. Yes.
So,
right.
When are you going to do your job?
What?
And book us some guests and have an agenda for our show.
Yeah, well, I guess you could say I've been falling down on that.
And you've also are supposed to be in charge of marketing and selling advertising.
Yeah.
How many ads have you sold, Larry?
Let's meet and have a marketing strategy session.
Four we sold.
We should have a meeting. We should definitely have a meeting.
We should committee that.
Put a pin in that. We'll synergize and touch base on that later.
Speaking of business jargon, so our boys over at the round table, Larry has read the book in full. I'm working on it, but we should mention there's a great book out there.
We should talk at length about their book without having read it.
Well, no.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is
Pete, you start.
Larry,
I review movies all the time without seeing them, just based on the trailer. So
Larry said it's great. I made a post on Facebook that said I can't put it down, but I had to put it down to make that to make that post. So
although Larry was very jealous because he has like a 400-page book that he has on Kindle for $5. He's like, there's Kindle for $9.99 and it's only 70 pages. And yeah, because they're business people and they know how to.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! What the hell do you mean?
Price points, marketing.
The first few chapters I've read are great.
So give us the title of it.
It's Business Time, and they've taken well-known top seller books and business ideas and strategies. The very first chapter is Who Moved My Cheese, where cheese could be applied to Freemasonry, and these books were revolutionary at the time. That they're still popular today, but I don't think that they're earth-shattering at this point.
I think they found that there was cheese in the crypt.
Yes,
actually.
exactly
Yes.
right. They did find the lost and secret cheese.
The lost and secret cheese.
Is Ziegler a brother? I don't. Stephen Covey, is he a brother?
Yeah, but they were taking those ideas of those successful business books and applying them to Freemasonry. Not because Freemasonry is a business. I mean, in a sense, it is, but you could certainly draw the parallels to some of these ideas. I highly recommend it.
And like I said, I have not read the book.
At least the first few chapters, I recommend.
I have not read the book, but based on the title, I'm going to agree 100%. Because if these lodges didn't have a bunch of cash stuck away in a bank and have a building that they own, that they hold the mortgage on, or there is no more mortgage, they would have been out of business years ago because they are not run anything close to sensibly, So,
I mean, it's and look, because the product. I mean, I hate to say the product and the customers, but if our members are our customers, right? And if the product is Freemasonry, podcasts, blogs, the web, we're the Amazon.com of Freemasonry. I mean, if you don't have the foot traffic through, and you know what? If you
symbols, and if you see that happen right there, you see what he did.
And if you don't have the traffic coming through your door, right, to justify having the real estate, I mean,
So what you're saying is we should charge dues for the podcast.
A membership.
What?
No.
We could have a membership-based
podcast. Who would do such a unseemly thing?
Let's not do that. That's not the direction I was going here.
Yeah, we probably all get expelled.
I got to put my product out there for free. What's the matter with you? No, you're right. It does need to be run better, because the old model that it ran, that it supported back in the day, doesn't exist anymore. So we have to look at what the model is going to become, and we have to structure ourselves to be that.
Well, I just look at like an individual lodge, but especially in our jurisdiction, when you're going through the chairs, you're doing your best to master your job at that position and learn ritual and learn how to do business in the lodge. And it's a lot of work. It's a volunteer organization, but nowhere in that progression do you get any kind of like training on interpersonal skills, training on how to speak to members. I was in middle management, so I learned early on, I'm a little more blunt now that I'm not in management, but when I used to be in management, I was the person talking between the big shots and the little people, and you have to have skills in communicating.
We talked about that, and I think there had been a couple of attempts at leadership training and stuff at least within our district. There were. Unfortunately, I don't think it really hit the mark. It was well intended, and the people that were putting it on were very knowledgeable about what they were putting on, but it kind of missed the mark because they were putting it on for as though it were for businesses, without recognizing that this is not a business, and that you can't dock somebody's pay if they're not getting any. You can't. It's a different animal.
The Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, just obviously they had their secretary seminar and their officers workshop, which you could argue is partially a leader training, but they did for the first time this year actually offer a leadership training, which they charge for, and it wasn't necessarily Masonic in nature. It was open only to Masons, but it was to be used across all of your, whether it be your vocation or Masonry. And the current secretary of Lamberton Went, who works in the business world and is no stranger to these kind of events, and he said that it was actually worth the $25. So kudos to Pennsylvania for trying to make stuff like that happen.
Absolutely, they are trying. It's just difficult because it's a moving target, right? You've got people that, you're volunteers, like you said, Pete.
But it almost should be like there should be a symbolic leader of the lodge who's the worshipful master who runs the meetings, and there should be somebody that's focused more on the business end of the lodge.
That's the secretary,
and is running, but.
Yeah, it's a secretary who's been the secretary for 23 years.
And
right?
doing it the way he's always done
Doing it the way he's always done it, right. Here's your budget for the year. Don't spend any more than this. Boom, done.
I will say Jack and I had a great discussion last night at our AMD chapter. Ours is unique, kind of like Jack said earlier, where we're based on the Junto model of Ben Franklin. He had a group called the Junto in Philadelphia. And we just pick a random question off of his list that they used to discuss at his meetings. And the question we pose basically, like, who was some younger Masons that are basically doing a good job that could use some help
or encouragement. Yeah.
And we came up with some good names, and a couple of the guys are listeners, so I'm not going to say their names. But, maybe that's something we can start doing on this show a little bit too. If there's people that we know that are doing a good job, like you were talking about Larry doing a good job for that lodge in the river or whatever it was called.
Lodge in the river.
We had lodge in the river
in a van
Yeah.
down by the river.
and Greg Moore.
Yeah, but there are some guys, and I try to be above it, but I'm not. I'm petty. Like I got really grumpy with my old lodge because I just felt like I did a lot for a lot of years, and it just got to be expected and never appreciated.
Right.
And so
which in itself is a lesson to the people that were around you in the lodge, that you really do have to appreciate the people that are getting things done.
Yeah, and
otherwise they'll go away, which is what happened for you.
Right. And people wonder why, the past 9 past masters never come around anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, that's probably why. But yeah, so a little thing. If a guy comes out and he constantly is helping clean up, he's constantly helping do something, how about just a little thank you at the meeting?
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Praise in public. Yeah.
Larry, do you
praising in public is great, except when you have a stated meeting and you only have 15 people show up. What?
Well, celebrate those 15 people.
Exactly. We do so much. Whoa, why aren't there more guys on the sidelines for the extra meetings? There were 4. How awesome is that? There were 4 guys there who saw the work. Isn't that great? Let's ask them at the next stated meeting what they thought of that work. Let's bring it out. Like, put it right in front of everybody. Here it is. Yeah. I just think we spend so much time focusing on that negative side of it that we really need to take more.
And it is a negative side.
It is.
I totally realize that. But when you're asked to, prepare and speak and do research and so forth and present it to a virtually empty lodge.
Well, going back to, Jack's topic from a show ago, I've probably gotten more out of Freemasonry in the past 3 or 4 years than I did in the first 18 years. When I was going through the chairs, it was a blur. I say I was slapping water. Like I was just trying to keep my head above water. And I had some great ideas of what I wanted to do. I ended up just kicking the can down to the next master. But in the past 3 years, the podcast, I get more out of this discussion with you guys in the basement than I wish we could have this discussion in the lodge. And that's what the lodge is there for, because you tile the lodge. We should be able to have
Exactly.
We should be able to have a cool discussion between men in that room.
Yes, absolutely.
And if you did have a good discussion, then maybe some guys would come out. Maybe that would be appealing to some people. Now with the fraternity shrinking, we have all these auxiliary bodies that need to kind of come home. And that's a topic for another day. But
Fraternity's not shrinking. It's not shrinking. That's not the right word. Shrinking's negative.
In terms of actual girth.
No, we're growing there.
Absolutely.
We're normalizing.
Right sizing.
Incidentally, that's a change that I've noticed. I've been a Mason for 44 years. And I can remember 44 years ago, we weren't this big. So we have grown.
That's one of the reasons.
Our membership attending meetings has shrunk, but our bodies
we're the same mat. We're the same gross tonnage.
Yeah, we could cut our head count in half, but we'd still weigh the same.
Same mass. Oh God, that's so gross.
It's getting to be almost that time, boys.
Happy anniversary, Masonic Light Podcast. Looking forward to many more years.
Good news, everyone!
Masonic Light News. News not fit to print.
According to the popular technotainment website Gizmondo, Iranian government officials have been trying to convince users to switch from the social media app Telegram to Sarush, a new app developed in the nation. The new app comes equipped with a unique number of emojis, including a woman in a chador holding up a sign proclaiming "Death to America, Death to Israel,
and death to Freemasons. When asked to comment, a local Freemason responded by saying, "That's not the way we did it my year." And that's the Masonic news. So mote it was.
So let's wrap this up. So this is our 2-year birthday episode, right?
Episode 52.
Episode 51.
51.
But it's
51.
been about 2 years.
It's like Area 51, but it's more mysterious.
It has officially been.
We
2
talked
years,
about
last
2
Thursday.
years last episode as well. And if you're wondering why this episode came out a week late, it's not a week late. We're on a Masonic calendar. We release on the 1st and 3rd Monday. So there was a 5th Monday. We're actually recording on the 5th Monday. So yeah, but so it's our birthday, and we reverted to our normal ranting.
Larry, you have nothing going on, right? You don't do anything?
Stated meeting. Goose and Gridiron Thursday.
Anything on the fellowship committee or mentoring committee?
No.
You have nothing to offer?
No.
Okay.
And the petition committees? Is it?
Committees of petition?
They haven't given me a petition in a long time. I wonder why.
Wednesday, I'm the number 2 officer in our local Tall Cedars chapter. The title is Senior Deputy Grand Tall Cedar. And Wednesday night, tomorrow night, is our 2 nights away. It's our executive board meeting.
Oh.
And it's where we make all the decisions. And our Grand Tall Cedar is not going to be there. So I get to run the meeting.
You're Al Haig.
I get to run the meeting, and a listener and friend, Ed McGrath, he's behind me in line.
Does Ed actually listen, though?
I don't know.
I don't think he does.
But Ed tries to give me some advice because he's a little bit more polished than I am, and he tells me all the time that I need to.
That's an Ed word. He needs a little polish.
I need to sugarcoat things a little bit. He says, I don't want to make it sound too like sexual innuendo, but he goes, you can't just jam it in. That's what he said. He goes, I'm like, what? He goes, if you want to tell somebody something, you can't just force it on them the way that you do. And he was a little more blunt, and he says you kind of got to ease them into it a little bit. Yeah, well, so that's basically what he said. So I'm going to take advantage of that Wednesday, and I'm going to let everybody know that in January,
shit's going to change.
There's some.
Beep.
Yeah, and Saturday in January, there's some big changes coming. So, get mad at me now. Help me work on that.
That happened at Grotto.
But yeah, it's the Band-Aid's getting pulled off in January, so you can take some pain meds now and bite your comb or whatever you got to do.
Can I make a mention real quick? I forgot that we all said that we had Grotto, but kudos to Jack, and hopefully our Prophet Monarch is recouping from his surgeries and his health stuff. But Jack had to run our Grotto meeting in Sean Spinagle's stead, and it was a wonderful meeting, Jack. Great job.
Wonderful?
It was.
Damn.
Yeah, and part of what we joke around about Ubar Grotto is that it's fun because it's a little bit crazier than boring Freemasonry in Pennsylvania. But the past couple of years, it's just kind of ratcheted up a little bit to almost chaos. And I think you brought back just enough structure to keep things moving. Because if you leave any like big gaps in time, the crowd just starts talking amongst themselves and it gets out of hand.
Yeah.
So yeah, you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
It was fun.
All right, Larry, take us out of here.
Larry stayed the whole time, so you know that was a good meeting.
Larry stayed.
It's because Pete didn't leave.
No, Larry left early.
Oh. Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah. I left as the speaker was being introduced. That was sad, but I had some physical problems I had to take care of.
You had to pee.
No, I had to do something else.
TMI.
I left that meeting. I left the meeting.
Pot his mic down.
Yeah, I left 2 meetings ago.
Right. Yeah. No, I remember that.
Yeah,
all right.
I was behind you that day.
It's not my worst exit. I will say, I'll make this one short, but I was at Nava Grotto up in New England, and apparently they don't run things like we do in Pennsylvania. So
you mean they actually run things?
Well, they kind of were not happy when I cracked a beer open during the meeting. That was kind of like the Grand Master of Rhode Island was not a fan of that. So anyway, it was dragging on. It was getting boring. And I just looked over to my right, and my buddy Jake was beside me. I just said, I got to go. And I got up and I walked out. I just made a beeline through the room, and I set up like a Blue Lodge room. So I walked into what would be the visitor's room and closed the door.
Locked yourself in?
It turns out it was a closet. And I walked out of the meeting, during the meeting, walked out of a tiled room into a closet. Now, it gets worse. Because I realized I'm in the closet, but I forgot something. I had this tapestry of Victor Mann that I had hanging on a chair. So I texted Jake, and I said, Jake, can you grab Victor's portrait
and meet me in the closet?
And, I forgot to mention it was a closet. So Jake just, because, Jake can't do anything subtle. Jake walks over, he just grabs this thing and he waves like, I gotta go. And leaves and goes out the same door I went out. I walked into the closet with me. So there must have been like 200 chairs stacked up in this like closet that we had to like move in order to get out a door to the main. Yeah. Good times.
Holy heck.
All right,
Great
Larry.
story.
Oh, all right. You ready?
Banjo music.
Okay.
Cue the chickens.
Cool. All right. I want to give special thanks to Monarch Studios for allowing us to record our fantastic session tonight. Also to our producer, Jason Lewis, for always doing a fine job and making a show like this palatable and listenable. Also to Jack Harley, our news director, for always having on-the-spot newscasts. And also to Lady Stephanie, who left tonight to do some outlet shopping and let the dogs run wild upstairs.
I really hope the howling.
Yeah, we hope we do. I hope they did show up. Yeah, absolutely. Also, want to give special thanks to our creative director, who has been noticeably absent, and it shows tonight. Our creative director is Drew Blank, and we do have a dope slap administrator. Do you know that? You know that?
No, I'm not familiar with that person.
Yeah, that hurts. And our fact checker, Elevino, and our help desk coordinator, Dan Defino.
Hang on. What do you? We've probably made this joke before. What do you call a cross between an elephant and a rhinoceros?
Elefino.
Yeah.
Elefino, really? That's cool. Well, anyway, wrapping it up, our new law firm of Rush and Delay, and that's it for our podcast. This is Larry.
This is Jason. Thank you for listening to episode 51.
And Jack.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
This is Moyer. Happy anniversary to Masonic Light Podcast. The only reason that you're doing so well is because of me. So hopefully...
Well, who are you?
I said this is Moyer.
Oh, is it?
Can't you hear?
No, I can't
Not
hear.
only do you look like shit in that Goodwill thing, you can't hear.
You can't say shit.
Oh, just bleep it out.
Jesus, Jeff.